Gears of War Judgement is the fourth installment in the Gears of War series and acts as a prequel to the rest of the Gears of War franchise. It's actually kind of funny, because Gears of War Judgement sort of feels like Microsoft's tongue-in-cheek response to Sony's God of War Ascension, which was released last week, and just also happened to be the fourth installment in the franchise and a prequel. So anyway, if you're a fan of Gears of War, you're gonna like Judgement. It's really more of the same. But as for the rest of us, this is sort of a hit or miss. You may like this new style Gears of War has going with these new gameplay tweaks and modifications, but if you're not interested in Gears of War, Judgement isn't going to do a whole lot to change your mind. The plot basically centers around Damon Baird and the events that he and Kilo Squad go through prior to the events of Gears of War 1. They do, well, I don't want to spoil anything, but they basically kind of go on off on their own little agenda and go against orders, and the story starts with them showing up as war criminals to be tried by Colonel Ezra Loomis, who is like this really by-the-book, intense guy who just wants all these guys to be shot. Most of the story is told through flashbacks, with each member of Kilo Squad recounting a part of the tale, and there's also a few fan services that have been thrown in, such as a very small cameo from Marcus Phoenix, and you even get to see how Jack comes to join the squad. The entire campaign experience, though, is ultimately very disappointing. It only took me about 6 or 7 hours to complete the whole thing on normal difficulty in co-op, and it doesn't have very much of an emotional payoff. There was a huge missed opportunity with these new squad members, especially seeing as the ones that have been created are actually pretty interesting. In fact, even Cole and Baird themselves feel really underdeveloped, as if there was just no intention to make them have anywhere near the level of brotherhood that Marcus and Dom have had in other Gears of War games. Besides the general one-liners and comments that all 4 members of the squad will throw out throughout the entire 6 or 7 hour campaign, there's no real moment of connection. The thing that really killed Judgment's campaign for me, though, was just the fact that the entire thing felt like a shooting gallery. It was not a smooth experience at all. Basically, every level, you would just show up in an area, it would do its little narration bits, and then you'd have an action sequence. You get about a 10-second cutscene of the squad like going through a door or something, and just do it all over again. And just do that about 40 times, and that's the campaign, basically, with an end boss battle. But hey, let's say you don't care about the story, and you just want to have fun playing in 4-player co-op with your friends. Well, then this might actually be a good game for you, because it introduces a couple new things such as declassified challenges. Now what those are they're basically just optional little difficulty boosters you can get at each section of the game that make things like, complete this level in 4 minutes, or, corpses show up that you have to fight, and they basically make things a little bit more challenging. And as you do this, you can rank up in each section and get 1, 2, or 3 stars. These stars can be used to unlock multiplayer bonuses such as skins and, weapon customizations, things like that. There's also a short little mini campaign called Aftermath that unlocks once you reach 40 stars. It takes place during Gears 3 and you still play as Baird, but you get to see Paddock years after the events of Judgment, and you even get to play as Carmine again. Not a very big feature, but it's a nice little addition to somewhat pad the underwhelming 6-hour runtime of the Judgment campaign. But enough about single player, let's get into the real reason people play Gears of War nowadays, the multiplayer. Versus multiplayer has 4 modes: Deathmatch, Team Deathmatch, Domination, and the new mode Overrun. Outside of Overrun, there is no more COG versus Locust gameplay. Everyone now plays as a version of COG, just red or blue. Active reload damage bonuses are also absent in multiplayer, as well as the traditional use of the D-pad to change between your weapons. Players are also no longer downed when they get hit too many times by a weapon. Instead, they now just straight up die, making for a much more streamlined experience. The map design in Gears of War Judgment is fantastic, as we've come to expect from Epic. Each level has its own interactive features, such as secret rooms or rideable helicopters. Unfortunately, there's only 4 competitive maps for Gears of War Judgment right now, although it has been confirmed that on April 2nd, an update will bring in new multiplayer maps, as well as return executions, which have been for some reason left out of the game at launch. As for the new Overrun mode, it's pretty interesting. It's basically just the COG are defending an objective, while the other team is playing as Locust and they have to destroy it. What's interesting about this mode is that it's class-based, so the COG can play as either Scout, Medic, Engineer, or Soldier, and each with their own weapons and abilities. As Locust, players can play as Retchers, Tickers, Grenadiers, and Cantus, but as you gain points from damaging defenses and killing COG, you can unlock the ability to play as Boomers, Ceripedes, even Corpsers. Also, maps in Overrun are unique in that you don't actually play on these maps in competitive modes. They're designed specifically for Overrun and survival gameplay, so really there's more like 8 maps in the game instead of 4 if you play Overrun. On the negative side of multiplayer, I can't help but feel that the entire experience is just a bit too shallow for a full-priced game. Sure, there's going to be free maps in the future, but at launch, this just doesn't feel like a $60 experience. It's also disappointing that multiplayer features no game types that don't support instant respawn. Classic Gears players will know that the most standout thing about game types like Warzone and Execution, which are not included in Judgement, was the fact that you couldn't respawn until the next round if you died. And this encouraged people to play tactically and strategically. And so with all this in mind, my final score for Gears of War Judgement is a very solid 7 out of 10. If you're a hardcore fan of Gears of War, this is an easy purchase. Hell, it even comes with a free copy of Gears of War 1 to add to your collection. As for everybody else, I'd recommend you try this out at a friend's house or rent it if you can before buying it, because this may not be your thing. Well, that's my review of Gears of War Judgement, so thanks for watching, and I will see everyone next time.